Hey everyone, Dr. L with your week 5 video. Today I'll be talking about the midterm exam. I'll be providing an overview of different things related to that assignment, focusing primarily on the tech that you'll need to use in order to complete that assignment. I'll also touch a little bit on some of the content for this week related to deviance, crime, and social control. But for the most part, the content you're reading about this week will really be the focus of our in-person session on Thursday. So for today's virtual lecture, I'm going to do announcements, review, the tutorial, exit pass, and reminders. Your midterm exam is due at the end of week 7, so Sunday at 11:59 p.m. week 7, which is only 2 weeks away because this is sort of the beginning, hopefully it's the beginning for you of week 5. I know some professors like to provide details about exams 1 week out. I like to do 2 weeks out to make sure students have multiple class sessions with me and know what the expectations are. You're able to ask detailed questions in real time. So make sure in the next couple of weeks you're coming prepared during our Thursday session to ask questions that are more detailed about the midterm exam. And that's always true of all of our assignments, including the weekly assignments. Remember, you can always follow along with the assignments that are due in our class by going to the course schedule. If you go to the important documents here folder on the left-hand side of our eLearn page, our course schedule is the second file down. That important documents folder is also where you can find the assignment rubric and checklist for our midterm exam. That's been there since the first week of classes, but if you haven't looked at it for a while or you forgot to look at it when I first posted that document, make sure you're refreshing your memory and looking at that in preparation for Thursday's class so you can ask more detailed questions to me in real time at the beginning or end of class. I mentioned this last week on Thursday, but there is an event on campus in Dayton Friday, February 27th that the social work program is hosting. If you would like to attend that event, you can earn back a class session you've missed. Also, if you haven't missed class, but you know you're going to have to miss a class later in the semester, you could proactively go to that event and attend it. And then that way you don't have to worry about missing class later in the semester. And I'll talk more about that event in just a second on the next slide. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or things you want to share with your classmates, come prepared Thursday evening to do so. As far as that event I mentioned where you can earn back a class period you've missed, here's details. You can earn back a class by attending an event outside of class for any reason. I know, especially right now, it's really cold. The weather isn't always the greatest. Students are going to miss class for a variety of reasons. And, you can always review my attendance policy in the syllabus, which again is in that important documents folder on eLearn. But if you miss for any reason, you can attend this event on Friday, the 27th, make up that time you've missed. And I also want to mention that if you hear of other events on campus or close to campus in the Dayton community, and you think they're relevant to our class, you can share them with me. And if I agree, I'll allow you to attend that event you've shared with me to earn back another class session you've missed. If I think it's a really great event, I'll actually share that with your classmates so that other folks who have missed class can also potentially attend that event to earn back time. And then finally, as far as the COPE event on the 27th, if you do plan on attending, it's free, but you do need to register. So if you click on this link here, it'll take you to a page that provides more details about the event, including the day, time, location, and a link to register for the event. So make sure you're doing that. I will actually be at the event, so just make sure you come find me and touch base with me, prove that you were there for at least an hour, preferably for the duration of the event, and I will give you that credit. As far as the exit passes from last week, week 4, the main issue that came up consistently was folks had questions about the midterm exams. So my hope is that by providing clarification today during our virtual class, you'll be able to feel more confident and your questions about that assignment that you asked in the exit pass will be answered. Review. So our review for last week, week 4, is going to look a little different. It's not going to be a traditional, hey, let's review the content you read from the textbook from last week. I want to talk about the activity we did during our in person session last Thursday, week 4, because that content can be a little heavy to sit with. So, if you remember, if you were there, hopefully you were there. We did an activity called Privilege for Sale, and then we had a class discussion afterwards. That content can be heavy to sit with, and we discussed that in class. However, we had a very excellent debrief as a class afterward. With that said, sometimes students continue reflecting on that content, on that activity, and have more to say after reflecting over a week's time. So if you have any final thoughts about the activity and the discussion we had on Thursday evening, week 4, feel free to come prepared to our class week 5 on Thursday with questions and comments and feedback about that class session. The tutorial. All right, so of course the review is brief this week because I really want to hone in and get to work on your tutorial so that everyone feels confident going into the midterm exam. We're going to start by reviewing the assignment rubric and the checklist. So we'll go over how to find that. Then I'm going to actually go through and show you how to go about creating an account so you can record yourself doing the oral presentation portion of the assignment. I'll show you how to create an account, how to actually click record and use Loom for recording purposes, which is literally what I'm using right now to record this video. So that's kind of meta. I'll also show you an example of a project. So it occurred to me as I was starting to prepare my PowerPoint slides for this week, week 5, that I really couldn't do a tutorial on how to do the the oral presentation portion of the assignment unless I had started to create a selfie log PowerPoint the way you all have. And so I always joke, but it's true. I'll never ask my students to do anything I wouldn't do or that I haven't done. And so I realized this is my first semester doing the selfie project. Again, I've done other types of oral exams in the past, just not the selfie project. And so I have never done this and I figured I should. And I actually rather enjoyed doing this assignment. So I hope you're enjoying it just as much as me. And I know sometimes learning the technology stuff can be hard or challenging. Maybe you're not a tech person or you've never had to do technology stuff in your other classes. But the reason why I'm so passionate about teaching students how to use technology is because when you walk away from taking classes at Sinclair, whatever you do professionally, you're likely going to have to know how to record videos, use YouTube and or other social media platforms. You're going to have to know how to make a PowerPoint well, maybe not, but it's very likely you'll have to know how to use some of these things. So I want to teach students how to do that. And my expectation is not that you have used all of these technology platforms before. My expectation is that everyone's going to have different levels of knowledge. And my job is to do these tutorials so that even folks who have never used a particular piece of technology in the past will now know how to do so because I've done the tutorials, I've done Q&A sessions during our in-person class and that sort of thing. And then hopefully you'll feel like you have usable skill sets when you are, updating your resume, applying for jobs, things like that. The other thing I'll say about that is when I was in college, I didn't walk away learning a lot of technology. And so then I got to grad school and I started having more professional jobs and I was expected to know how to use all of this different technology. And I found myself having to Google search stuff and look at YouTube tutorials. And I was like, gosh, I wish I had learned how to do this in college. And so that's part of the reason too, is I know that that's something I wish I had had when I was an undergrad student. So I want to make sure that now that I'm in, here at the front of the podium and I'm in charge of the classes, that I am able to teach those skill sets I wish I had had. All right, so we'll go over the organization of the selfie log. I'll talk about the different types of photos you might have. And then we'll discuss some other things you'll need to add to your PowerPoint slide deck before creating your video. In order to do your recording, I strongly encourage you to use the site loom.com, which is linked here, because if you have, well, anyone can create a free account, but if you create a free account with a .edu account, including your Sinclair email address, the free account that you'll have as a .edu person is very expansive. You'll if you use the .com email address, you're very limited in terms of how long your video can be and the different bells and whistles you're able to use. But if you use your .edu account, then you're able to have a longer video and take advantage of some of the other different things that Loom offers. So I strongly encourage you to go ahead and create that account using this link on Loom, following along with my tutorial before Thursday. That way, if you then have issues using Loom, you're able to ask questions before or after class and we can sort of troubleshoot things together. I am going to get out of here. I'm going to start from the beginning. Well, so actually, I guess I should do my Sinclair, eLearn. I'm going to go to our page here. I'm going to go to content, important documents, whoops, midterm exam, checklist, and rubric. So if you're in that folder, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items down. I'm not in student view, so this will look slightly different than what our eLearn page looks like for you, but you still should be able to download it. And you'll see here there's directions. You'll see that you need 6 selfie entries for your midterm exam. I have information about how long you should approximately spend talking about each selfie entry. I'd say the selfie checklist is really important at this point. Do you have a selfie photo for each weekly entry? Do you have the necessary or the required weekly item in your picture? Do you have one key term for the readings that week? Do you have a 1 to 3 sentence explanation as far as connecting your key term, your item, and your selfie? And you should do that. You should go through that checklist for all 6 of your selfies that you'll be discussing for your exam. And again, I think it'll be a little clearer when I show you the example that I have. Project checklist. Did I include all 6 selfie entries? Does each selfie entry include all required components listed above? Are my selfie entries logged in in a PowerPoint document with each entry on a new slide? Did I share the link to my PowerPoint document on the class shared Word file at the beginning of the semester? Again, I want all of those links for everyone in our class centrally located. So when I'm doing my periodic checks throughout the semester, I can easily click on everyone's link to make sure you have everything you need. I did do one check early on in this semester. I will do another check either later this week, week 5, or week 6, but definitely before your midterm exam is due on week 7. Let's see. Do my definitions include in-text citations from class content? Do I have a works cited page at the end of my PowerPoint? Are all of my citations formatted in APA or ASA? Did I add a conclusion slide at the end of my PowerPoint? Are my slides edited and visually appealing? Did I record myself using Loom or Zoom while presenting my full PowerPoint, including all 6 selfie entries? Is my recording uploaded to YouTube, and is the YouTube link shared on eLearn and in the class shared Word file? So that's all the things you should be doing. Do you know, I always like to provide students with options whenever possible. So although I'm doing a tutorial on how to record yourself on Loom, if you feel more comfortable recording yourself on Zoom, you can certainly do that. I just like Loom better because I think it's more user friendly, it's more accessible. Here's how you're going to grade. And you can see the breakdown here. We get to 50 points and where all the points are coming from. Gonna say, oh, the other thing that I wanted to point out, because one of the things that I've consistently talked about when we go over the selfie entries and we go over this project is the fact that the key term you use for that week's selfie entry should align with the readings that have been assigned for that week. So if you go to our course schedule and you go to week 4, and you can always make sure, look at the dates, make sure you can see what chapters you were supposed to read. So because our textbook has more chapters than weeks in the semester, when some of the chapters are shorter or you have less due for your weekly assignments, I'll often double up on how many chapters you're supposed to read for that week, which means eventually the chapter you're supposed to read and the chapter you're supposed to get key terms from no longer aligns with the week in the selfie entry. And I believe that starts week 4. So for week 4, you're supposed to read chapters 5 and 6. And then you should use key terms from chapters 5 and 6 in selfie entry 4. So make sure you're always following along with our weekly course schedule to ensure that you are choosing a key term that aligns with the week you're completing that selfie entry for. All right. What should your selfie entry look like? So if you go to your OneDrive through your Sinclair Outlook account, you should be able to find the PowerPoint that you created at the beginning of the semester for my class, in your recent files. If for some reason it's not showing up, you could always go to eLearn, go to submit selfie entry log here, click on that. This will take you to all of the links for all of the students. And I believe pretty much everyone at this point has included their link. And then you could find your link and you could click on it that way. Okay, so here is my example. You can see I got a title slide. I got information about our class and I have my name. You can see, so when I initially demonstrated to you how to create a PowerPoint slide on Outlook, the example I gave was all white. It didn't look pretty, but I went to design and I picked a color scheme here. I could do that. And that would change it. I don't like that, so I'm going to undo it. You can also, if you're in design, click here on designer, and it'll PowerPoint will automatically generate some different suggested designs. So there's just different ways you can polish and beautify your PowerPoint slides as needed. I like a good outline when I am creating a PowerPoint. That way your audience knows what to expect and what you'll be talking about. So that's also true. It's true of all of our weekly PowerPoints. It's also true for this assignment. It's a good idea to have this so that I know and everyone knows what you'll be covering. And I just realized there's a typo because you'll be doing selfie entries 1 through 6. Since the assignment is due week 7, I'm not going to have you do the week 7 one. And then this should look familiar to you, right? This is the example I gave you at the beginning of the semester. This is my selfie entry 1. And you can see it has all of the components, the weekly item, key term, that should say textbook definition, and then the explanation and connection, including a citation for our textbook, because I directly quote that. You see me here, I'm editing the document in real time. That's the sort of thing you should also do. Make sure you're going through and you're editing the words on your slides and you're making sure that everything is polished when you submit your PowerPoint slide and you go through your recording and you make that. Ooh, whoops. Okay. Week 2. So here you'll see this is a real selfie I took in real time. This one's older. This one's newer. I don't like taking selfies, so you can kind of see that in my face. But you can see, again, all the components are here. I changed up where I included the in-text citation for the textbook, but I have it. Here I want to point out that I don't have a selfie. This is a picture of me wearing a shirt that represents a subculture I'm a part of. This t-shirt is meant for summertime. I don't know where it is in my closet. It's buried with all my summer stuff. And so if for some reason you end up using an older selfie or a picture that is not a selfie, that's okay. Um, you can switch things up a little bit. I've said from the get-go, some students may not feel comfortable taking selfies. I know some folks may struggle with things like body dysmorphia, for example. And so taking a selfie photo is just not something you're comfortable with. Let me know. That's totally fine. As long as you have a photo for each of the entries each week and you are incorporating the weekly item in that photo, you're probably in good shape. If you ever have questions about a photo you plan to use, just email me and let me know, and I can give you confirmation either way on an individual basis. And then here's another older selfie. And the reason why I chose, like, there's a good reason why this is old. So for week 4, you had to include something in your selfie that demonstrates socialization processes. And when I did the virtual lecture on socialization in chapter 5 from our textbook, I talked about the fact that often when we think about socialization, we tend to think about it in terms of gender and how folks in our society are socialized with gender, even before they're born. And so one of the biggest ways we're socialized is by family members, right? And so this is a selfie with my mom and my sister. And they're two people who really socialize me, especially when it comes to gender norms. Now, my mom passed away from cancer a few years ago, so it would be impossible for me to take a selfie with my mom and sister right now. So that's why I kind of dug through my vaults and found a picture with the two of them so I could talk about the fact that, I learned a lot of socialization I learned a lot about gender norms, and I was socialized by my mom and my sister. And this is a family friend who also happens to be in the pic. Okay. And then here is a selfie for week 5, the selfie entry you need to do this week. So for homework this week, you're supposed to break a norm. And then in class on Thursday, week 5, we will discuss all the norms people broke and we'll have a discussion about that. For week 5, your item is caught in the act. You should take a selfie of yourself as you break your norm. And so here I am breaking a norm. I'm on Mason campus. This is my car. It's a hybrid Prius. It is not an electric vehicle. And I am parked in the part of the parking lot that's designated for electric vehicles only. You can tell because there's electric cables here, and right here is a sign that says electric vehicles only. And so you can see how, like, sometimes depending on how good of a selfie you took, you may need to go into detail to explain those things in the video recording you do for your exams. And the other thing is, like, it's a true full selfie. Part of my face is missing. This is a second selfie I took. Breaking a norm just makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I was trying to move my car as quickly as possible. And so I was like, okay, shoot, I am struggling to get my car, the sign, and the cords, and myself in the selfies. So I'm just going to use what I got and move on. And that's okay if you have to do that. All right. So this kind of gives you some ideas of, like, what your selfie log can look like, different types of photos you might use. And I'm showing you how to, do all the things. Now, one of the things you'll need to do is you will need to add a slide at the end. Of course, I would have one more slide, right? I would have selfie entry 6 too. I need to include that. But after you have all of your selfie entries, you'll have a conclusion slide. And you'll just, briefly summarize all the things you discussed here. Now, your conclusion and your summary is going to look different depending on the key terms you used and the selfies you took. So, you can get creative, but at the end of the day, the goal is to demonstrate that you are keeping up with the readings, you understand the class content, you're paying attention during lecture and taking notes, you've gone through all of the virtual lectures. That's really what you want to show your audience, including me. One thing I wanted to point out is, okay, here's a good one. So another way that you can do that is you can add multiple key terms. So here for week 3, where you had to represent a subculture you're a part of, I talk about subcultures. My key term is countercultures. I define that, but I also am incorporating other key terms from our textbook as a way to demonstrate, hey, I know about multiple key terms. I understand what we're learning as we read through the textbook and we go through lecture. I talk about cultural diffusion here as well. So sort of keep all of that in mind and make sure you're doing a good job of demonstrating mastery of subject knowledge in our class. Another thing that I should point out is here, if you have your camera turned on when you're using Loom, it'll be like you can share your screen and your audience will be able to see your PowerPoint nice and big. But then you can also have your image here. And I strongly encourage you to do that. The reason why I don't have my video turned on right now, I used to always use it when I make videos for classes, but lately my computer has been short-circuiting if I use my video when I'm on Loom or Zoom, and so I didn't want that to happen. All right, I'm gonna minimize this for a second. Okay. And then, okay, so you can do your conclusion. Once you have your bullet points here, you can go to designer. This color scheme kind of matches what I already got going on with that, light green. Maybe I'll do that, or maybe I'll, do this. So this is just showing you how you can very quickly beautify your slides and make everything look aesthetically pleasing and sort of align. The other thing you definitely need to include based off of the assignment rubric and checklist is go to home, add slide, references. Now, at a minimum, you will be citing our textbook. So if you go to our syllabus, what do you know? I have a full APA citation of our textbooks here. Copying, Control C that, Control V that. Let's clean it up a little bit. And even do no, okay, let's see if I can get a hanging indent. Nope. Okay. I don't know if you can do a hanging indent in PowerPoint, but if you don't, I will not take off points for not having that part of APA citation. The other thing I'll point out at this point in time is if you go to the very bottom of our page on eLearn, there's this additional writing resources. If you go to APA sample, this is an APA sample paper. I know we're dealing with a PowerPoint right now, but here you can see how your references should look. If you have any questions about, maybe you're citing something else besides our class textbook. I haven't assigned any other readings beyond the textbook so far, but maybe you're citing lecture or something like that. There's examples here and there's stuff on APA formatting here. All right, so I've gone over the rubric and checklist. I've gone over the selfie log, including organizational structure, what the selfies and photos can look like, and the other things you need to add. I would probably also add an intro slide. I did not think to add that to the assignment rubric and checklist, but you can see I have an entry here, an introduction bullet here. I would probably go ahead and do an introduction. And here just talk about the assignment, provide an overview of the assignment, talk about the topics you'll be focusing on. That's the type of thing you might add bullet points for here and then discuss as you introduce your assignment during your video. And then I always think it's a nice idea anytime you have any sort of formal presentation, anytime you're using a PowerPoint slide deck, probably you want to have a little thank you. And again, you can go to design, you can go to designer. We only need one smiley face. However you want to do it, right? Okay. So the next thing I want to go over is Loom. So if you go to loom.com, ooh, shoot. Let me do this. Let me go to incognito. Let's go to loom.com and we're going to sign in. You will click Outlook. Well, actually, I will click on Outlook too. I usually use my .edu email account from grad school when I was at University of Hawaii, and that's a Gmail account. But I'm actually going to create a new account, so this will literally look exactly how it looks for you. I don't think I have a Loom account through my Sinclair email yet. Don't think. We'll find out. Okay. Okay, next. So you just put your account in, you put your password in, you gotta do that 2-step stuff. Oh, well, we might have an issue. I'm glad I tried this. If students also have issues creating a Loom account with your sinclair.edu email address, let me know. So an alternative could be that you use Zoom. I do know that everyone has an account, a Zoom account that if you've never had to use before, you can log into Zoom using your Sinclair login credentials. So your Sinclair email address and your Sinclair password for that email address, you should be able to download Zoom and use that information to log in and record that way. But for now, I will use Loom and I will sign in. Always got to do our authentication process, right? Okay. See how this works. See if we can do it again. And so once you've created an account, your Loom page will look something like this, except for you won't have all of these videos because I've been making videos on Loom for a long time. You'll click new video, record a video. You can choose all that. I'm not gonna have my camera on. I don't want to crash my computer. And you can see that you could start recording. You would click start recording. You can see, you can have your screen here or not. And that's sort of how you create your Loom account. Okay. I will ask that students, if you experience any issues and you're not able to create a Loom account with your sinclair.edu email address, let me know as soon as possible via email, and we'll kind of go from there. All right. This video is getting kind of long, so I am going to kind of end things for today. But week 6, I will go over how to download a video from Loom and then upload that video to YouTube. The goal is that everyone submits their midterm and final exam as a YouTube link. That way, everyone in the class can access those links, and I will talk more about why that's important later on. And then here's your exit pass for the week. Finish reading chapter 7, start reading chapter 8, submit week 5 weekly assignment, which is reading quiz 3. It's in that submit weekly assignments here folder. There will be an in-class assignment, so don't forget to break a norm. Also, don't forget to take a selfie while breaking your norm. One thing I'll say about that, don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything that's going to get the cops called on you when you break your norm. Just got to say that, of course. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you all Thursday. Bye, everyone.